Talk, movie talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is The Daily Show. We give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California, and it's a strange kind of day.
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
Somebody saw the IMAX screening. I didn't see it. I was too tired, but I'm seeing it in 2 weeks. Come on, guys. Anyway, I'm jealous of Campea because he saw it. Sounds amazing. What's
Welcome
up?
back from New York, by
New
the
York
way.
Comic-Con. All the sweaties out there. What's up, man? Me and Ellis, it was great hanging out with everybody from New York Comic-Con. New York Comic-Con's great. All of us are going to be there next year. Right, John?
Don't keep making promises.
Come on.
Well, speaking of Ellis, he's here too.
Hey, I'm back. I'm here 2 days in a row. It's a new record.
Also here, Perri Nemiroff.
And I'm so bummed I wasn't here yesterday that I'm just going to talk about Power Rangers all day today, despite all the good stories on the lineup.
There was a lot of Power Rangers talk yesterday. All right, let's get started.
All right, Scott Derrickson has just completed his final cut of Doctor Strange, and yesterday fans gathered around the country to witness a 15-minute IMAX preview. The presentation began with a special message from star Benedict Cumberbatch, who, tapping into his own mystical powers, changed the aspect ratio of the theater screen to the proper IMAX dimensions, teasing as well that there is more than an hour's worth of footage made specifically for IMAX presentations. The preview coincided with the release of a short behind-the-scenes featurette where Scott Derrickson and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige spoke a bit about artist Steve Ditko and how his art was inspiration for all the trippy IMAX 3D shots in the movie. Doctor Strange opens on November 4th. John, you were at the IMAX presentation. What did you think about the 15-minute preview?
Yeah, actually, like Mark Riley, I forgot all about it until in the morning. Mark Riley made sure he got me tickets, which was great. And look, I've been looking forward to Doctor Strange. I like Derrickson as the director. I was very happy to hear he was director. I think Cumberbatch is a great guy to have in the role. You know, from Tilda Swinton, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Mads Mikkelsen, yeah. But I'm going to admit, it's not like I've been, oh my God, countdown to Doctor Strange. Like I've been looking forward to it, but that's been about it. So we go to this IMAX thing last night, and yeah, the whole thing that Cumberbatch does, it starts with him on screen just talking to the audience. And he does that whole thing, I will now tap into the mystic energies, and the screen expands, and it looked amazing. And I'm normally one of these guys who's like, sometimes you see these movies that jump back and forth between the aspect ratio of IMAX and regular theatrical ratios. It can be a little bit jarring, but if anything, like when The Dark Knight came out, I mean, it can still work to beautiful effect if the shots are done right. Then they got down to business, and they actually started showing footage from the movie, and a bunch of it. And I will say this without a word of hyperbole at all. It is the most spectacular visual display I have ever seen on the big screen. I have never, you doing all right? I have never in my life as a film fan seen anything so, I'll just use the same word, spectacular. I was in awe. Now you got to remember too, I come from a visual effects background, so I've worked in visual effects, and so I have a real appreciation for visual effects, whereas maybe the average film goer doesn't in a certain way. But the stuff I saw on screen, and I'm not going to give much away about what I saw on screen, was every frame amazing, jaw-dropping. And you know, there's some people out there comparing what they're seeing in Strange with what they've seen in Inception. F Inception. F it completely. Inception is kind of like, I don't know, Joe Dirt compared to The Godfather. I mean, for what visually, for what they're doing in this movie. They showed prolonged scenes of that, like cityscapes unfolding in on each other. But it's not just to look pretty. They actually showed us combat happening within those scenes, and it's actually functional to the scene. It actually feeds into the narrative of the scene, the stuff you are seeing. And if you're one of these guys where like you're a fan of the old comic books and you were really hoping that this movie was going to do like a lot of trippy stuff, fear not. It is trippy as, I was going to swear again, it was trippy. Like, holy crap. They decided, Feige and Derrickson, they just decided to put their foot to the floor and go full blown out. I don't know if they're going to give away free hits of acid when you go in to see the movie or not.
Do you even need them?
And you do not need them at all. So all I can say is that, look, I was looking forward to Doctor Strange because, you know, Marvel has a great track record. I just look forward to it, but I had not been psyched out of my mind for it. I am psyched out of my mind for it. Look, it was 15 minutes. That's, I don't know, what a small percentage of the movie. I don't know if the movie's going to be good or not. I don't. All I'm talking about is the 15 minutes I saw. And the 15 minutes I saw, and I know a lot of you guys had seen it last night too, absolutely amazed me. So I know, Schnepp, this is one you've been looking forward to this a lot more than me.
Yeah. Since I was a tiny child. The words Doctor Strange and Stan Lee and Steve Ditko are burned into my cerebrum and everything inside my brain. So to hear that it is honoring Steve Ditko, even in the featurette, though I have to call this out. I mentioned this to John.
Yeah.
When Feige's talking about the amazing art of Steve Ditko.
Now, he's talking about the 1 minute featurette that came out yesterday.
The 1 minute,
online,
you can watch this
stuff.
online. They cut away to Gene Colan's art. So they're not even showing Steve Ditko's art, but it's all influenced by Steve Ditko's art. Then the very next thing they show, still talking about Steve Ditko's art, I believe it's Mike Friedrich. Anyway, they do show a few of the original drawings of Steve Ditko. Always super trippy, super crazy, and that's what, you know, he's kind of known for Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. And with Doctor Strange, he put that mystical, crazy, ultra-dimensionality to reality in the comic books. I've never seen it yet, and now you're saying that it's all that and more. So I'm really excited to see it. I almost went last night, but I was like, you know what? We're going to see it in 3 weeks. I can wait. And so I'm overjoyed to hear that everyone who saw it so far, especially like super freak fans like Matthew Key, freaking out, Matt Key, like the big Doctor Strange fan. So very happy to see. I literally can't wait to see it.
I don't often ask this of you, but we've got to make sure that I am sitting with you when you see Doctor Strange, because I cannot, honestly, after what I saw last night, I cannot wait for you to see this. Anyway,
Definitely.
Mark, you're hearing all this stuff. Where's your anticipation level for Doctor Strange?
You know, John, hindsight is 20/20, and I probably should have gone with you yesterday.
I invited you.
In retrospect, that Panthers-Bucks game wasn't worth missing when you're gushing over right now. And I know you don't want to tell us what you actually saw, but what did you see?
You know, I'll say this. A couple of cool things that I'll reveal, because guess what, guys? It's a comic book movie. There's some combat. So big spoiler alert. But we get to see shots of Strange using his powers in combat. We get to see Mads Mikkelsen. All that excitement we felt when we heard that Mads Mikkelsen was going to be the villain in this film, it's there.
Yes.
But what surprised me that we saw in the thing, so forgive me if you consider this a spoiler. You shouldn't, but forgive me if you do. Because they showed it to us in an advertisement, so it's not really a narrative spoiler at all. Getting to see Tilda Swinton in combat as the Ancient One looked sick.
Nice.
It looked so sick. So that's some of the stuff I saw.
But my it's not a concern, but my question is less combat related, because you know you're going to see that in a superhero movie. With Marvel, you always expect some sort of sense of humor, and when I saw the footage that I got to see at San Diego Comic-Con, it was funnier and more sarcastic than I anticipated. Did you get more of the chuckles in this as well, or was this more of a serious 15-minute cut of the movie?
This was, I would say, 60% action, visual, trippy combat, 30% dramatic narrative beats, 10% humor.
Okay.
I think that was kind of the mixture. Whether that'll be the mixture for the film or not, I'm not sure, but that was the mixture of what we got. Anyway, where are you your anticipation level right now, Perri?
Question, though, safe to assume you saw it in 3D?
I did see it in 3D.
Because that's what's getting me most excited at this point for Doctor Strange, because I've said it before in a number of these shows, I'm not a big fan of 3D, and I still can't name a single movie that in my mind could not be viewed any other way but 3D, where that extra dimension actually enhances the narrative and makes the movie what it is. Kevin Feige has given quotes saying that is the case for Doctor Strange. And based on what you're saying now and what I saw in that new featurette, I actually really do think that this could be the movie that kind of tips the scale for me in terms of 3D. So I am just so psyched for this now.
Yeah, I hate 3D. It's a blight on the movie-going experience. I wish it would just go away. And when Kevin Feige, who I adore, says it's really important for the telling of the story. No, it's not. No, it's not. But I will say this. I don't think I've ever enjoyed watching something in 3D the way I enjoyed watching that footage in 3D last night. I hate 3D. Hate it. And I actually think on opening night when I go with an audience, I actually think for the first time ever in my life, I'm actually going to look for a 3D screening on opening night and go to a 3D screening. I've never said that. I will probably never say it again. But the effect they used it with all the stuff they had going on, it added to that excitement of the action. It really did, and I have never said that. Even Avatar. I think Avatar was just as good of a viewing experience in traditional 2D as it was in 3D. That's just the way I feel about it. But this one, I'm actually going to go out of my way to see it in 3D.
Wow.
Never said it before. We'll probably never say it again. All right, what's next?
Variety reports that Michelle Williams is in talks to star as iconic rock star Janis Joplin and Martha Marcy May Marlene Helmer Sean Durkin's biopic entitled Janis. Producer Peter Newman has long held rights to Joplin's catalog and a large collection of written materials, which will be used to create a movie about the last 6 months of the singer's life. A release date has not been set. Mark, thoughts on Michelle Williams as Janis Joplin?
I think she's a fantastic choice to be playing Janis Joplin because you really need to commit to this character. People still love Janis Joplin. They celebrate her career, her catalog, but she hasn't been gone so long that there isn't still a connection to Janis and what she did in the late 60s, early 70s as a singer-songwriter. I think she was so influential that it's one of those ones where it's a very tough role to tackle, but if there's somebody up for the challenge, Michelle Williams, I wasn't thinking about her when I knew they were making a Janis Joplin biopic, but hearing that name, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. I think she's going to be a great choice.
Schnepp?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's such a talented actress. I've been waiting to see a good Janis Joplin biopic, to be honest with you. I think she's an incredible singer. It's part of an amazing history. Her and Jimi Hendrix, obviously. I mean, that's an amazing part in musical history, so I'd love to see that done right. So it sounds like they've got the right person to play her.
Sounds very Oscar baity too. I will say it sounds like a good role to take on if you want to have a statue, but you can also really commit to that material.
Especially given that she could wind up getting an Oscar nomination this year too. So
Right.
if Michelle Williams gets an Oscar nomination and potentially even a win for Manchester by the Sea, maybe that'll push this project forward even faster than it would have without that. But I love the idea of this casting, kind of echoing what you just said, not who I would have picked off the top of my head for the role, but I've never seen her do any wrong, so I think she's going to be excellent in the part. And I'm just really excited to see another movie from Sean Durkin, who directed Martha Marcy May Marlene, because that's like, what, 4 or 5 years ago already? It's about time we get another movie from him, and I think with him paired with Michelle Williams, this really could be the biopic that she deserves.
Janis Joplin is a character that would be so incredibly difficult to cast. When you look, as she was larger than life.
Right.
I mean, there was so much presence to her. She lived wild and loud. She thought wild and loud. She acted wild and loud. I mean, everything about her was so in the moment and great. And Michelle Williams is absolutely the right person to play this role. I often talk about how in There Will Be Blood, seeing Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood is one of the most dominant male performances I have probably ever seen. There are a few female performances that fall in that category too, but one of those is definitely Michelle Williams' performance in My Blue Valentine in 2010. To me, I'm just shocked she didn't win all types of gold for that, because I watched her in that movie and I was like, it takes another level kind of actress to pull off what she was able to pull off in that movie, and I absolutely adored it. I think she's a great choice for this. So yeah, I cannot wait to see what she does with this.
Has she sang before in a movie? Has she? I mean, look, if
Does
somebody's
Oz
out there,
count? Like the Wizard of Oz movie she did? Did she do any singing in that? I can't
I don't
remember.
I think she was just the good witch.
You're right. I think you're
somebody
right.
taught Tom Cruise how to sing passably like an 80s rock singer, so I'm sure you can coach Michelle Williams enough to sound like Janis Joplin, but it's not an easy task to sing like she did.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, it is Tuesday, which means it's time for us to talk about what is opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. 3 wide release films coming out. We're going to talk about one of them today. Ashley, which one is that?
It's The Accountant. Christian Wolf, Ben Affleck, is a mathematics savant with more affinity for numbers than people. Using a small-town CPA office as a cover, he makes his living as a freelance accountant for dangerous criminal organizations. With a Treasury agent, J.K. Simmons, hot on his heels, Christian takes on a state-of-the-art robotics company as a legitimate client. As Wolf gets closer to the truth about a discrepancy that involves millions of dollars, the body count starts to rise.
I have been sold on this movie since I first heard about it. The premise is amazing. I love the look of it. I think Ben Affleck looks great in it. The one question mark I have about this movie, though, and it's shocking to me, this is my one concern, is Anna Kendrick. I love Anna Kendrick. I think she's wonderful. But for whatever reason, for me, in the trailers, it'll be interesting to see if this is actually the case in the movie or not. It might not be. In the trailers, when she appears in the trailer, it doesn't feel right with the tone of the film that I was feeling up until the moment she came in. Yeah, there's something odd about it. And like I said, I don't know why I'm feeling that way because I think she's a terrific performer, but there's something about that just didn't work for me in the trailers. We'll see if it plays out in the movie, but I just cannot wait to see this. I think we're seeing it tomorrow night. Mark, what do you think about this?
We are seeing it tomorrow night, and I'm very excited because it looks like a great action movie or at least a great thriller spy. But I never had this thought until you just brought it up. As oftentimes, I don't know what's in my head until John Campea tells me. And Anna Kendrick, it does feel like it's showing up, and you're adding a new element to the story for sure. If there's going to be some sort of romantic interest or it's going to be a pursuit about him actually trying to relate to another human being instead of a number or a sheet on a page or a target. I don't know if I want that in this movie, but it seems like something that I'm very interested in seeing. I wonder how slow this movie is going to be. Because a lot of times with a film like this, like that George Clooney film The American, was really good, but it was also really slow. And from the trailers, it looks like it's going to be this slam-bang, quick-paced action movie. I don't know that that's going to be the case when we see it, but I am definitely excited to check it out tomorrow night.
Perry?
I got a little distracted, started Googling Michelle Williams singer, and now I have a page full of Destiny's Child over here. Not the right Michelle Williams. I am really excited for The Accountant, though. I just want to see a great movie from Gavin O'Connor. I was very intrigued by Jane Got a Gun and then never wound up seeing it because of all the negativity around it and all the problems with that production. So I want to see him back on his game. Warrior, whatever year that came out in, was one of my favorite movies. I thought that movie deserved so much more credit than it got. But this one, I think, could be exactly what I need this weekend. So I'm hyped to see it tomorrow.
Schnepp, we got J.K. Simmons playing a cop to Ben Affleck's Dangerous Badass. Sound familiar?
Yeah, also it does. But just throw the Punisher in there, John Bernthal, and someone from Scott Pilgrim, and you've got a cool movie. This is Josh McCouga's The Accountant, which is also that's coming out later next year. You'll definitely want to look for it on YouTube. Anyway, yeah, I can't wait to see this film. From the very first trailer, I was hooked in. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if The Accountant fights, Jason Bourne. You know what I mean? That would be the sequel. But yeah, I like the way they're portraying. Like Ben Affleck's playing this guy like kind of an OCD Asperger's type of assassin, and that's pretty creepy as it is. But everything the way that the trailers have set it up, it does have a little bit of that Jason Bourne kind of feel to it, but with an assassin, and he's not a good guy. So I don't think it's going to end well for Ben Affleck. I don't think we're going to be seeing The Accountant 2 unless it's someone else, perhaps.
All right, guys, we'll reach that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ash, she's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Logan has been shrouded in secrecy since day one, but with director James Mangold now firmly in post-production, 20th Century Fox has begun the movie's marketing campaign. Yesterday, the official Instagram account released a new image of Boyd Holbrook's character with the caption Pierce, revealing him to be the Marvel Comics villain Donald Pierce. A previous R-rated image was also shared on Instagram, showing just how dark and grim the world of Logan will be. Yesterday also saw the rap report that the young mutant girl seen in the poster for the film is rumored to be a character named Laura, a two-clawed mutant girl, with the rap sources confirming to be the mutant known as X-23. The film opens in theaters on March 3rd, 2017. Schnepp, buy or sell the new images released for Logan?
Yeah, I buy it. I hope they're doing the movie in black and white. That would be pretty badass. Just kidding. No, I buy the images. I buy all the information that we've been seeing. I remember several months ago while they were shooting, we saw, a bearded Wolverine like pushing along a bearded Professor X in a wheelchair, and they were with a young girl. We were like, who's that young girl? Could that be X-23? Yes, it seems like that's X-23. It's like, I'm pretty much guaranteeing you that scene, that's X-23, simply because of the way all the publicity has slowly been rolling out, and we're really kind of hinting at it back and forth, but now they're definitely confirming it. So that's exciting news, and that also means that, they're not calling this Wolverine 3, they're calling it Logan so that they can call the new X-23 Wolverine. I'm sure that's going to happen. But I'm excited to see this film. It's only, it's coming out in May of next year, so we've got 9 months. It's great.
Yeah, it's still a ways away. What the really cool thing about that one image with the arm on the ground and the gun, honestly, and we talk about this, the funny thing that the fine lines that separate PG-13 from R. Because if you go back to X-Men Days of Future Past, right? Remember that scene where Logan first wakes up in the past. He's in bed with that girl, and these 3 or 4 guys come in. He slaughters those guys. Blades out, piercing their hearts, all that kind of stuff. The only thing was, you didn't see dangling fleshy bits. and like a lot of blood splatter. That's it. That was the difference between X-Men.
I was thinking like after he cuts them, their skin dangling off, and I was like, is that a dangling fleshy? Oh, that dangling fleshy. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, different dangling fleshy bits. So, I mean, it just made me, that's the line. Because that's the difference between X-Men Days of Future Past being a hard R movie and this where we see an arm on the ground. And if it was just a severed arm on the ground with a gun, it's not an R-rated clip. But because there's like flesh trails hanging out of the arm or whatever, that makes it R. But I know like after so many Wolverine films, after so many movies with, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, in the PG-13, a lot of people are saying, hey, let's see it with the gloves off. Let's see Wolverine. If this is his last ride, let's see with the gloves off. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. Perri, what do you think about this stuff?
I buy this big time. This to me almost has like a horror quality to it, which I love. The R rating and then also the reveal of the villain. I mean, I don't know anything about the source material except what I've heard from Schnepp, but just reading up on it too, I mean, this guy, Donald Pierce, sounds like a sick man. And just combine that with the images we've seen, with the knowledge that it's going to be an R-rated movie. And this feels like a really sinister threat on a different level than anything we've experienced, especially with X-Men Apocalypse and the style of villain that was, and just like the type of third act we got. This just seems like such a different approach to a villain character in an X-Men movie. So I cannot wait to see this.
Mark.
Huge fan of both of these images. The Instagram one, it looks like somebody walked into the Mos Eisley Canteen at the wrong time because I got that shade from A New Hope where it's just it's a hand laying there, it's an arm laying there. And the fact that it is Donald Pierce, previously in X-Men movies, a lot of times we've seen mutant on mutant combat, which is nice and it's entertaining. But with Pierce, he hates mutants. This guy hates them, and he's very hard to kill himself. You pretty much have to cut the guy's head off to kill him. And so Wolverine, while he does have that ability, this is an older Wolverine. This is a more jaded Wolverine. This is a Wolverine maybe coming out of retirement that's been dealing with a lot of different issues. So everything I'm seeing from this movie is exciting, not the least of which is the fact that it comes out in March of 2017, and we're not that far away.
Right.
Yeah, and he's kind of a cyborgy character. There's a lot of things they can do with him. You're right. We don't often see non-mutant fighting mutant in this with any sort of challenge, if you will. So it looks like they might do that here. All right, what's next?
In an interview with Blaster from New York Comic Con, Evangeline Lilly set the record straight with what's going on with her character Hope Pym, aka the Wasp, in the next round of Marvel movies. According to the actress, Ant-Man and the Wasp will serve as an origin story for Hope as the Wasp, where we'll get to see her in the suit for the first time. Lilly also said that the reveal of the costume and exploring her character is something Marvel wanted to save for a standalone movie, with Lilly then confirming she won't be in the third Avengers movie, Infinity War, but that her part will be added to the team for Avengers 4. Perri Byers saw the Wasp joining the Avengers after the events of Infinity War.
I'm gonna buy because I think that's the appropriate move to make, and also because I love these quotes from Evangeline Lilly. It's so nice and refreshing to have someone sit down with a journalist who asked an appropriate question and give an honest answer, like an answer that does not feel like she's sidestepping some other answer. And I don't know if she got in trouble for saying all of this at this point, but I kind of just appreciated to actually get a soundbite that seems like something we could really sink into and take as fact. But this seems like the appropriate way to do it. I'm a big fan of Ant-Man. I love the movie. I've seen it a couple times. I'm not going to say her character is the standout for me. I'm not looking at that character and saying, oh, I can't wait to see the Wasp in another movie, just because I don't really know all that much about her. I don't think that movie really dug into the character like I wanted it to or needed it to in order for her to have an appearance in Infinity War. But, if we get Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that's what that movie is for, to establish the character, to show her flying around and trying on the suit and all that, that's what's going to get me ready for her appearance in the next Avengers movie.
Schnepp?
Yeah, what you just said makes total sense. She just got her outfit at the end of Ant-Man. Spoilers, it came out a year ago. You should have seen it. Anyway, she's not the Wasp yet, and it would be weird for her to be like, while they're like, we've got to go fight Thanos. Hang on, I got to try this suit on. Like 5 minutes her flying around, be like, what are you doing? They're not going to waste any of that time in Avengers 3. That's obviously Infinity War. That's where you have 63 or 70 other characters that they've already established fighting Thanos and a bunch of other weird demons in another dimension or whatever they're going to do. But yeah, it makes sense if they establish a character in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then that continues on into Avengers. So obviously the Russo brothers and the writers have said that they're making two separate films. There's Avengers Infinity War, then a bunch of other Marvel films are going to happen, and then there's going to be another Avengers film. So I think even though they're shooting them back to back, they're going to be very very different films.
Mark?
It's a buy for me, but it is interesting that she's not going to be a part of Infinity War at all because Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out before Infinity War. Is that right?
No.
So it comes out. If it comes out after, then that's why they do that. Because Ant-Man is a character that it's like when we saw Ant-Man, we hoped that he would join the rest of the MCU cast in future movies, but we didn't know if we needed him. After seeing Ant-Man, it's like, yeah, this guy has to be in Civil War. We need to see this guy team up with the rest of the heroes. That's going to be the same case for Wasp when that movie comes out. So if it comes out after Infinity War, that's why this makes so much sense.
Yeah, I buy these comments. I was talking to a buddy of ours who has served in the military and said, a lot of people in a lot of these movies, they just assume, unfortunately, whether it's in the movies or TV shows, once somebody gains a superpower, either through mutation or scientific experiment, or they get a piece of gear that gives them superpowers, that doesn't just make them a superhero. He goes, any more than hand some jerk, some random person a gun, that doesn't make them a Marine. Just because they have a gun, that doesn't make them a Marine. And the whole idea that, look, we didn't even get to see her put on the suit yet. She just looked, for all we know, the suit wasn't even ready to put on yet. It's just there. He's working on it for her. So I think it makes sense at this point, especially since if Ant-Man and the Wasp is supposed to be more like her origin story, then that kind of precludes using her in Infinity War at this point. I think it's great they're going to use her in Avengers 4. I'm looking forward to that, so I buy just about everything about this story. All right, what's next?
Sony Pictures Animation announced yesterday that Emmy and Tony Award winner James Corden, Into the Woods, and Emmy nominee Ilana Glazer, Broad City, are joining the previously announced TJ Miller Deadpool to lead the cast of summer 2017's animated comedy Emoji Movie Express Yourself. The movie unlocks the never-before-seen secret world inside your smartphone, where hidden within the messaging app of your phone is Textopolis, a bustling city where all your favorite emojis live, hoping to be selected by the phone's user. Sony also shared a first look at the movie, giving fans a taste of what we can expect to see from the August 11, 2017 release. John, buy or sell the first image and cast for the Emoji Movie.
I just said what we saw with Doctor Strange is the most spectacular thing I've ever seen on screen. This is the most spectacular single image I have ever seen for a movie. Ever. You can just tell that quality is oozing off the screen. That little chocolate ice cream cone emoji down in the bottom corner. But that's what it is, right?
Oozing off the screen.
Chocolate ice cream, is that what's down in the
it's
corner?
chocolatey deliciousness.
This is going to win every Oscar that it is possibly qualifies for. Look, all I can hope for at this point is that this turns out to be one of those movies that to me looks like total and utter crap. Like the first Teenage Ninja Turtles movie did a couple years ago. Looked like total utter crap to me, and I actually came out being pleasantly surprised. That's all I can hope for, because this looks like total utter crap. This sounds terrible. Nothing other than the voice of T.J. Miller being in here is at all redeemable to me, because I loved what T.J. Miller did in Big Hero 6. The performance he brought to Big Hero 6, I thought, was a big addition to that movie. I'm scraping for something positive to hear. Nothing about this movie makes me look forward to it, like, at all. Everything about this, from the description to the image, for me is a sell. Perry, what do you think?
Do you have to ask me? I'm gonna sell this
never
movie.
Know.
Wait, look, there's poop right next to you.
No, there's poop.
There's poop in the corner. There's poop in the corner. There's literally poop in the corner.
Oh, I don't even know.
Chocolate ice cream.
I laughed out loud when I read this press release for all the wrong reasons. I'll give them a little credit, though, because they also sent out an emoji version of the press release, and it was kind of clever and funny, I guess.
That was clever, actually.
This just looks like absolute nonsense. This really makes me sad for this industry sometimes. And I have a question. What the heck is the code breaker emoji? Is that a thing?
I have no idea.
I use a lot of emojis. I've never used that emoji.
They needed her.
It's brand new. They're gonna debut it.
I'm just selling this. I didn't really expect them to go this route with it either, where they create this world in your phone.
You mean Textopolis?
I mean, maybe there's. It sounds to me like this is like a major ripoff of Wreck-It Ralph. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean,
Mark?
it's just it's another sign that society's going backwards. I mean, we progressed so far from ancient Egypt and hieroglyphics, and then we evolved it to language and using letters and words and sentences. And we're just going back. We're just going back to.
Look,
we're going to hell.
I'll say this too. Look, I had the same. I had not the same, but I'll say similar feelings to when we just heard descriptions about the Lego Movie.
Sure.
I ended up loving that. I wasn't impressed with what I heard about Zootopia. I ended up really enjoying Zootopia. And I don't know. I'm stretching here.
But look,
Schnepp.
it's called Buy or Sell, okay? That's the name of this segment, and I'm going to buy the cast because I can't think of people that would be better than somebody like T.J. Miller or James Corden. I mean, they're very talented. They're very funny people. If somebody is going to bring some life into this, then it's probably going to be guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could take, the crappiest idea and surround it with talent, and you can get a good movie out of that. We've seen that happen. I can't wait for Monopoly, the movie, to be honest with you, because it could have an amazing cast. And I mean, like T.J. Miller, if they let him improv like half of whatever the script is,
right,
while they're stuck in Textopolis or wherever the hell they are. I mean, it's like literally just like using the shell of Tron and throwing the word Textopolis. It's like we are the users, we pray to. It's like they're emoticons or whatever. It's horrible looking. Yeah, we joked about it when they first announced the Emoji Movie like many months ago. We were like, what are they gonna just add little stringy arms and legs to them? And it's like, there it is. And then there's poop in the corner. You can just check that out. I wonder if poop has arms and legs, or is it just shitting diarrhea?
He's got hands.
Oh yeah, but I wish his legs were just like diarrhea jets. That would be amazing.
I want to be like
just jets of screaming diarrhea,
just
like this movie.
Like a brown cloud of poo around him.
He emerges out of a brown mist.
Right. Yeah. He's always got like a little bit of toilet paper like on his shoe.
He could be Dr. Shit. He's literally the most amazingly. I'm powered by molecules. Anyway, this looks horrible. Textopolis. I can't wait for all the new stupid bullshit apps to come out to like try to get us in. Here, talk to your emoji. Whatever. And I use emojis. I used one this morning. I'm not anti-emoji. I'm just simply this idea is like grasping at horrible straws. Aren't there other ideas left but the scrapings of like, here, look at this thing that I used to communicate with my text. Hey, let's make a movie out of that. Aren't there other ideas? I mean, I know there are. There's millions of other screenwriters that come up with incredible concepts. Instead, let's make a movie out of emojis. I don't know.
If I locked you in an escape room and I said you need to come up with an Emoji Movie premise and this is what you came up with, I wouldn't be upset. Like you could do worse than this.
You could do a lot worse than this, and you could do a lot worse than getting a talented guy like T.J. Miller to be the lead star, because he's going to bring a lot of flavor to whatever garbage can script they have floating around with a bunch of poops and other stupid emojis. And I'm the tech emoji. I'm sure he could turn it and make fun of it, and we'll all be laughing like, yeah, this is totally stupid, but at least it's funny. So hopefully we get that.
Now watch this. It's going to be awesome.
It could be awesome. Hey, look,
great.
I'm not saying it's not going to be awesome. I'm saying the idea of it is horrible.
Yeah, so far. All right, what's next?
According to Deadline, SGX Entertainment will move forward on Bad Dads, a spin-off movie to their $180 million global hit Bad Moms. The film is already set for July 14, 2017, with the studio said to be revealing casting details in the coming weeks. STX also said it will develop cross-platform opportunities for the Bad Parents brand as well. Bad Moms was directed and written by the Hangover writers Scott Moore and John Lucas, of an estimated reported production cost of $20 million. Mark, buy or sell a Bad Moms spin-off with Bad Dads?
Ashley, Bad Moms was one of my favorite movies of the summer, or if it wasn't like a great film, it was one of the most surprising because I laughed so much watching this movie. It was fantastic. It took full advantage of its R rating. It went to places I didn't think it would. Catherine Hahn stole the entire movie for it. I thought Mila Kunis was great in the lead, and I do not like this idea. I sell it. I understand why they're doing it. You put $20 million up for something, and it comes back with $180 million. You're going to want to expand that into a franchise, into a brand. As a consumer, I don't want to see a Bad Dads movie because the charm of Bad Moms is that you have mothers, and there's something about being a mom to a child where you have this intrinsic connection, and the fact that that was being made fun of, I thought was really appealing. It was a good source to mine for comedy. With Dads, it doesn't feel like funny to me. I'm sure you can make it funny, and they're going to cast it great, and there might be some chuckles in there. It just doesn't seem like it's going to have the charm that Bad Moms had. And then the rest of the press release, where they want to spin it off with a reality show and a short-form digital content, just make a comedy and let it come out and be funny, then go on to something else.
There's something about this that really smells desperate. And that's coming on the heels of saying that I also, I like Bad Moms.
Yeah.
I didn't think it looked very good, but I went in and I walked out, like, it wasn't my top 10 movies of the year or anything like that, but I was charmed by it, and I laughed a really good amount, and I enjoyed it. But this whole thing of, they haven't even announced a cast yet, and this movie is coming out in 9 months? They haven't even announced a cast. And in 9 months, so it feels like they are just rushing through something. Now, there's sometimes people say, oh, they only took 2 years to put that movie together. They rushed it. They haven't even announced the cast. The movie's coming out in 9 months. That's the definition. Or then all this other stuff you're talking about too. It's like that is the stuff that makes it feel desperate to me. If they just came out and saying, you know what, we hit on something with Bad Moms and we like what we have another idea for looking at it from the other side of the coin with Bad Dads, and we're going to start to put this thing together, and the story just ended there, I'd go, yeah, I buy it. But it's all these other details that make me go, this just doesn't smell right to me. I'll give it a shot, absolutely, because I do like what they did with Bad Moms, but it doesn't feel right to me, so I'm going to sell it. What do you think, Perri?
I think I'm going to buy it just because I'm with you guys. I was surprised by Bad Moms, and I actually was only surprised like a third of the way into the film. For the first act of this movie, I disliked it so strongly. I was so close to getting up and leaving, and I never do that in a movie ever, but I didn't want to be there. And then all of a sudden it did a turn, and I started to catch myself laugh out loud. And then for like 5 minutes, I was mad at myself for laughing out loud. And then all of a sudden I'm like, screw it. I'm going to have fun with this movie. And I did. I had a great time. And if they're going to make a Bad Dads, I'm going to go and see it and be happy about it. But part of the reason this press release puts a bad taste in your mouth, in addition to this whole weird plan to do spin-offs beyond just a sequel, is that they have to knock studios. Also, I've never really seen a press release that said, what was the stat? They said, on average, sequels gross 68% less than the originals, and we're not going to do what the studios do. It's like, do you really have to put down the competition to sell your own thing? So just reading through the press release, that's part of the reason why I'm a little apprehensive about this.
Schnepp.
Well, I was going to wait till they have bad children or bad kids or perhaps bad pets before I see the Bad Dads, because I didn't see Bad Moms. But I have a question. Is it funnier than Sisters?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. Really? Because I remember when it was the trailers and stuff for it just were like, wow, this just looks like it's not.
Oh, it did. Yeah, no, the trailers weren't any good.
Yeah.
And I like Sisters, but I do think it was a little bit funnier than Sisters.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say anything other than reading the press release. You're right. If they just announced Bad Dads, it would have been like, all right, cool, that makes sense. It made $180 million based off of 20. That's, of course, they're going to make a sequel. I thought they would just make, Badder Moms instead of
Badder
go to
Moms.
the, Bad Dads.
I would be more up for that than would be Bad Dads. It seems like we've gotten a crap ton of Bad Dads in movies before. It's just the movies haven't necessarily been called Bad Dads. Marking it around a premise like Bad Moms, I thought was a funny twist. Bad Dads is just 3 or 4 more crappy dads.
Well, what's that movie that Will Ferrell just did with Mark Wahlberg? They're kind of like Bad Dads.
The
Stepdad? No.
Daddy's Home.
Daddy's Home.
Oh,
And they're
that was funny.
doing
I was surprised by it.
I thought
You didn't like
the last
That was awesome.
Perri, come on.
Perri has a moment.
She's like, I didn't like it.
the very last little bit was funny, but they're doing a sequel to that, and I feel like we just covered a story recently where it sounded like Daddy's Home as well. So maybe we're just having too much bad
Let's just say that I'm
parenting
buying
movies.
Daddy's Home Part 8.
All right, guys, listen, as we often do, we do this show live, and then we're going to save a little bit of time at the end of the show to take some of your live Twitter questions. How do you get a live Twitter question on? Simple. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, @Collider Video, and start shooting in your questions. Wendy will pick a couple out for us to read at the end of the show. I also want to remind you that Movie Talk is not the only show on Collider Video today. A little bit later today at 5 p.m., Collider Nightmares, the newest episode of Nightmares drops with the two people to my left are going to be on that show. And then at 2 p.m. today, the Movie Trivia Schmodown team competition, Team ETC versus Team Real Rejects. That goes online at 2 p.m. And by the way, guys, we also have a new series of videos that we started doing called Collider Crash Course. We did one a few weeks ago with Jon Schnepp asking who is Mr. Sinister. We did one about who is Rita Repulsa. And now we have a newest one out that's basically a crash course on why Mace Windu is not Snoke. We'll put a link to the description in the video here, but you can find it on the front page of Collider Video. Go and find that video. It's about 5 minutes long. Check it out and let us know what you think about the newest Collider Crash Course video. All right, guys, it's time for us to get to the mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, just email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Maybe you'll see your question pop up on Movie Talk, maybe on Mailbag on Saturdays and Sundays. You'll never know until you write in a question. So, Ashley, what do we got in the mailbag?
Ike Nwoko writes, yo, what up, Collider? Aladdin is my favorite Disney animated film and got real excited when I heard that they were making a live-action version of the movie. But I remember a while back when they announced plans for a prequel Genie movie and never heard any updates about it afterward, and it got me wondering, could both the live-action Aladdin and prequel Genie movie be connected? Or do you think that Disney scrapped their plans for a Genie movie and decided to go all out with an Aladdin movie? I'm hoping for the latter because hearing that the team behind the Freddy vs. Jason movie and the Friday the 13th remake were attached to the prequel Genie movie doesn't give me any faith, and they will do a good job with the film, and would just rather them not attempt it at all, or at least not with that team. Love to hear your thoughts and appreciate all you guys do. P.S. I've been trying to get a question answered here on Mailbag for 3 years and would be excited if this one in particular finally got answered.
Yeah, dreams
Thank you,
come
guys.
true.
Yeah,
I'll be here
dreams
tomorrow.
come true. We're not answering it. Next question.
Next question.
No, if I had to guess, my guess is, since we've heard absolutely, because we talked about that Genie's prequel idea on Movie Talk, but I don't think we have heard anything since. So if I had to guess, my guess is that they probably scrapped that idea in place and they put in a live action Aladdin in its place. It seems to be the right thing to do at this point. I mean, and who knows? They have the flexibility that they can go, you know what? Let's take this prequel's Genie's idea, let's put it on the shelf. Let's see what happens after we do the live action Aladdin. Maybe we can come back to this idea sometime later, or maybe we don't. But it gives them that flexibility, but I would suspect that they've just scrapped it for now. Perri, what do you think they did?
That seems like the likely option, and I imagine that is what they did, but just to consider the possibility of them keeping it because of the whole non-linear story for the new Aladdin. So maybe that's the route they're going. I most certainly hope not. That's the only thing that's kind of worrying me to an extreme extent with this new Aladdin movies. I don't like the idea of a non-linear Aladdin.
Right.
Well, I'm really excited. I mean, they just announced that Guy Ritchie is going to be directing
The
Aladdin. And I
Aladdin
think
film.
that's an exciting, different kind of change of pace. Just like, I mean, I know a lot of people when they announced The Lion King was going to be done in the same style, live action, but it's not really live action. It's all CG, but kind of like realistic animals. They're redoing it with Jon Favreau. A lot of people who loved the animated movie of Lion King were kind of upset. And I think I understand it a little bit, but at the same time, it's like you just have to go with like, look, you have your animated version of The Lion King, and that's never going to go away. This is just a different adaptation, just like The Jungle Book was a different adaptation. I love the animated version with all the songs, and I love the new version, which is live action with all the cool computer animated creatures. I think Aladdin is going to be the same way, just like Lion King. You have to kind of get over the fact that you have an animated movie that's being translated into live action, just like if you had a live action film that was going to get translated into 3D or animated. It's the same kind of thing. These are just stories, and these stories can be translated, and just like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's been told like how many times in a movie version? Maybe like 12, 13 different kind of times. That's how I feel about Aladdin or Genies or any of these stories about the magic lamp or any of that stuff. That story has been told hundreds of times, both in television shows and movies. You might just be really attached to the Robin Williams version of Disney's version of Aladdin, but Disney's going to say, look, let's try a different take on Aladdin. So I'm totally cool with it.
But you also look at it like they're staying the course as far as like, okay, we're not going to do anything crazy different with our live action movies than we did with the animated films, because we want that nostalgia, and it makes sense from setting up your live action franchise, because once you get it set up and established and prove it's a moneymaker, you can take it any direction you want to go. There's going to be a sequel to the live action Jungle Book. There's probably going to be a sequel to a lot of these properties. What they did with Cinderella was the right play. With Maleficent, not so much. They took something that came from an animated franchise and they made it live action, and they tried to spin it in a different direction. Didn't really pan out. So when you see Cinderella, you see Beauty and the Beast, you see Jungle Book, you see the new Lion King, it's setting up your franchise so you can explore it in different ways. But first you have to have that template set. That's what they're going to do with Aladdin.
All right, what's next?
Matthew writes, "Hi Collider crew, I watch a lot of your content. I was watching your Deadpool commentary and the question of Deadpool appearing in the final Wolverine was brought up. Now that we learned last week that Wolverine 3 will be set in the future and called Logan and is R-rated, thanks to Deadpool's success, do you still think we can see Deadpool and Wolverine on screen together? If this is the final movie starring Hugh Jackman, how can you fit Deadpool in Logan? I guess Fox can make it work with the timelines. Thanks."
Yeah, there's 1,000 different ways you could do this and make it work. But if I had to put money on it, and thankfully I don't, I would actually put money on, I mentioned this on the show the other day, I think there's more of a chance that Wolverine, even though, Hugh Jackman said, I'm going to be done as Wolverine. I get it. That's totally cool. But he could still stay true to that and pop up in a cameo in the next Deadpool. Especially when you consider how much in Deadpool they cameoed Hugh Jackman on magazine covers, or they reference him, or he's wearing the mask of... It would just seem to fit if they actually did a cameo of him in Deadpool. I have a feeling they're going for a dark, gritty, violent kind of Wolverine. In that kind of a movie, Deadpool popping up, it doesn't fit to me in my head. So I think the odds are more that we see Wolverine pop up, even as a cameo, in the next Deadpool movie. What do you think?
Yeah, we were talking about it during the Deadpool commentary. We were excited because we're hearing this new movie, Logan, or the Wolverine movie that was being made was going to be R. So we're saying, okay, what characters can we put in there that they can make full use of the R potential? And Deadpool would be that guy. But everything we're seeing so far from Logan, you're right, John. There's not going to be a lot of chuckles in this movie. It's going to be a very serious, gritty tone. I don't know that Deadpool fits in there, and I don't know, with all the massaging of timelines that the X-Men movies have been able to do, I'm not sure you can do that with Deadpool in here, and I'm not sure that Deadpool fits the tone. So I would bet with you, and we'd probably lose money together, that it's more likely that we see Wolverine in a Deadpool movie than seeing Deadpool in this Wolverine flick.
Perry.
I'm going to say never with any superhero movie at all. So it could happen. I am hoping that it doesn't, though, especially given the tone and the story that we're going to be working with Logan. It is a character-driven story. And as fun as it is to see other heroes pop up in other heroes' films, I want this to be about Logan. And I want it to be about Professor X. And I want it to be about these new characters that I'm going to meet. I don't really need them to be like, oh, remember Deadpool, more movie coming out, let's just like pump up our franchise. Because that's what it would feel like to me. More manipulative in a way, like, look at what we can do because we have this.
Schnepp?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. I mean, even though it's kind of a bummer that they won't be in the movie together, I think tonally it would be weird to have Deadpool, who breaks the fourth wall, has a comedic tone to it. I mean, everything we're hearing about Logan is that it's not a comedy. It's definitely, set in the future. Like Professor X has dementia, all kinds of like bummer things, that Wolverine is or Logan's going to have to go through. I don't think, even though they're both technically immortal, Deadpool could be around, but it would be a weird thing to just have Ryan Reynolds show up and almost be a scene stealer, so to speak, because he'd be cracking jokes unless he was out of character and he's just like, Deadpool's over in this one area of land that they drive to make him, unless they take Deadpool and make him a different type of character because it's set in the future. I could see that happening. I could see that working where they maybe he's not cracking jokes all the time and he's not breaking the fourth wall. That's the only way I'd see it working, is they'd have to fit Deadpool into this kind of structure. And we already have, the Pierce character who also has, regenerative abilities. Deadpool and Wolverine have regenerative abilities, so I would bet that if I would lose money with you guys, let's get a big kiddie pool together and all become losers. And because I would rather see Wolverine show up as a cameo in Deadpool, and I could see that happening, even though that wouldn't be like violating Hugh Jackman's this is my last one or whatever, if he just showed up for 5 minutes or whatever. But he probably won't do that.
All right, guys, so I said we'd save a little bit of time at the end of the show to take your questions via Twitter, and we're going to do that right now. So, Wendy, what have you picked out?
First one comes from Matthew Jasso, and he says, if Doctor Strange does well, do you think we can expect Dr. Fate to show up over at the DCEU?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before a little bit. DC has already dipped their toes in the Dr. Fate pool. We've seen, at least we've seen allusions to Dr. Fate, whether it's the helmet or whatever. We've seen them touch on that several times. I do think, regardless of what Doctor Strange does, unless it's a monumental bomb, which it's not going to be a monumental bomb, I think regardless of what Doctor Strange does, I think DC is already looking at Dr. Fate. I mean, I think they've already kind of got him on the blueprint stage. I don't think they have a movie plan for him yet, but they're looking at ways to incorporate him into their universe. So I'd be shocked if they weren't already having plans with it. What do you think, Schnepp?
I'd love to see him in Justice League Dark. I mean, I think Dr. Fate's a great character. I mean, he's very different than Doctor Strange. Their origins are different. Their powers are different. I mean, they're both, they both use the word doctor in a strange way because neither of them are working on people. It's it's the name that's a little different, but I would rather them just, somehow integrate him into something like Justice League Dark that's straight up like an individual film. We're not going to see that until 2021 or 2022 anyways.
Perry.
Never say never. So I think it's totally possible, and I think especially with a cinematic universe, whether we're talking about DC, Marvel, or anything else, you have to cast a really wide net. So there's no doubt in my mind that this character's name is probably in talks at this point.
Right, I agree with Schnepp too. I think you introduced Dr. Fate in a ensemble piece like a Justice League Dark or whatever they want to do with that going forward, as opposed to doing what Marvel's doing, which is they say, oh, Doctor Strange. They made allusions to him, but he's never appeared in a movie before. So now here's his standalone movie. I don't think you're going to see that same formatted rollout with Dr. Fate.
All right, what's next?
All right, this one comes from Coral. With all the nostalgia movies and TV shows coming out, do you think it's keeping new and creative ideas from being realized?
No, absolutely not. Look, we do see, I say this a lot when we talk about remakes and stuff like that. There are a lot of movies coming out now that are based on nostalgia, and there's nothing wrong with that if they're good. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, there is more content today being generated than in any other time in our history. You know, you just go back a few years, ABC, CBS, NBC, that was it. They're the ones creating content on TV. You got a couple of movie studios producing movies, and that's it. Now, just on the television side or the streaming side, you got HBO doing original content. You got Netflix doing original content. Amazon doing original content. You've got, obviously, Netflix doing it. You've got 1,000, you got CWs and now Freeform or whatever the hell they're calling that. You got all these networks and all these channels and all these outlets and a lot of smaller movie studios now. From movies to television, there is more content today being distributed than in any other time in history. It has never been, look, it's still nearly impossible, okay? It is still nearly impossible. But it's never been easier to get a good original idea on TV because there's never been as many outlets and options for distribution as there are today. So I wholeheartedly reject this nonsensical notion that we keep hearing being brought up. Oh, Hollywood television movies doesn't do anything original. Hello, there is more original stuff being produced today than at any other time in history, period. I reject the notion completely. Anyway, what do you think,
Man,
Mark?
I really thought you were going to put on like a top hat and a cane and like take us into this 3D world where we're seeing all these streaming platforms. Like, wow, Mr. Campea, look at all this stuff. I agree with what John said, is that there's never been a better time to be a fan of original content than now because we're inundated with so many different brands. And if you are out there and you're somebody who has an idea, sometimes getting pissed off, sometimes getting rejected is the best thing to happen to you. I hope that people saw us talking about the Emoji Movie, which maybe it's good, and I hope it is. But I hope that you saw the Emoji Movie and us talking about it and you said, you know what, damn it, I got an original idea. I'm going to write this now because I'm pissed off that they keep greenlighting movies like this. Let the hate flow in you and then flow onto the page and create something original yourself. We need it.
You know, just a quick thing. I put out a tweet, I think it was about last week's box office. I put out a tweet. 10 out of the 11 top box office movies from last weekend were not reboots or sequels. 10 out of the 11. So that's the reality. The problem is that when we hear Transformers or when we hear about the new Marvel from whatever, those are the ones that get our attention and we focus on, and we just ignore the 15 other original films that come out and we just ignore them. So I think that's what happens more often than not. Anyway, Schnepp, how would you answer this question?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think there's an incredible amount. I mean, there's too much going on right now. I can't keep up. Like
Anne was saying that exact same thing last night.
I watched Westworld episode 2, and then I was like, I've got these 2 other American Horror Stories and Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and you know, there's too much stuff to watch, and it's all really fun and good. Yeah. It's not like, I'm just gonna slog through these like 7 shitty shows and be like, they all suck. Instead, there's like too many amazing shows. Like I was like barely catching up to Luke Cage on a plane going to New York Comic Con because I was like, God damn it. You know, there's so much good stuff to see. So I feel like when we talk about, like, I think a crappy idea like the emojis, or you hear about Pez or these, they're scraping the barrel at the bottom of like, we need to make a franchise, crying about stuff. That doesn't mean that there aren't original ideas that are being bought and produced and made every single day. There's pilots being made on every single network, every single channel. There's scripts are being bought. People are writing things. So do never be discouraged is what I'd say. It's, if you feel like there's like, there's just nothing but sequels or bad, stupid products are being turned into movies, that is what's going on. But there's tons of room for creativity.
It's just also a matter of the fact that, like, the studios with all the money and the big marketing budgets, they're the ones making those reboots, sequels, prequels, you name it. So that's why that's all getting shoved in our faces constantly. But I really like the positive spin on it. But there's no doubt that those studios, with all that money, are making a lot of garbage just because the business model would say, if we do this again, we could make just as much money. It's like every single time I hear about some sort of remake that just didn't pan out and is awful, that they spent, let's say $100 million on, that's let's say 100 really great original ideas that could have been shot on $1 million budget each. So I hope that some people will pull the reins on certain sequels and franchises that are popping up, but at the same time, I think the way you guys are presenting it is totally fair too. Use this as some motivation to actually write something original and do what you can to push it and get it out there. It is not easy by any means, and yeah, that can be discouraging, but don't let it discourage you, because if we don't fight for original content, we're not going to get it.
That should be the goal, is make Jon Schnepp's head explode because he's got too much original
There's
content
too much
to watch.
But I mean, this goes back. This goes back to the old argument, though, too. It's like we say things like, oh, they made $100 million film that could have paid for 15 or other. The thing is, these $100 million films, these reboots and these sequels, these are the movies that pay for the smaller movies to get made. And then all of us were lamenting about this the other week, is that, you get these great studios put out these great original smaller films, and then the audiences speak to the studios. We keep saying this all the time. How do you speak to the studio? You can't call them on the phone. You speak to them with your dollars. And when you don't go to see Hell or High Water, and when you don't go to see Don't Breathe, or if you don't go to see Queen of Kotway, or if you don't go to see these movies, you are the ones telling the studio, we're not interested in these. You're the one telling the studios that. So the studios take all the money they make from their sequels and whatever, and they produce movies like Queen of Kotway, or $1 Million Arm, or Hell or High Water, and they hope you go see them, but then you don't go see them. And so that leaves the studios in a very precarious predicament and I'm just glad they still do put out all these original films, regardless of that, because at their heart, and I know it doesn't feel like it, at the heart, these movie studios, they're businesses, but they're also artists at their heart. They want to make the Queen of Kotways, the Hell or High, they want to make these films. And sometimes they make them knowing that we're not going to go see them and that they're going to lose money on them, but they make them anyway.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's very true. It's so easy to make it sound like, oh, these evil corporations. There's producers sitting in desks right now who desperately have amazing scripts that they want to, stories that they want to tell, that they want to produce, that they want to make, that are purely creative or purely emotionally, like a cool biopic or something and they have to fight to be able to make that money from these other movies to get those smaller films, those chance films, those risk films, to get that money to make those. So, I mean, it's true. You can't just put you can't, say those faceless corporations. Every single person working at all of those faceless corporations have just as much creativity as us and just as many ideas and dreams that they want to help execute. So if you're a writer or a director or a creative out there, always remember that there's all the people at all of these studios have the same kind of desires as you do, but they also have to answer to that golden production value. It's a business, so it's a mix and match.
All right, last question of the day.
All right, this one's from OComics56, and they say, what remaining 2016 movie do you think could be a sleeper hit?
What remaining? Well, let me open up the old release schedule and see what's still on the docket for sleeper hit. Well, Max Steel. No.
I was going to say, I'm seeing it tonight, Arrival.
Yeah.
So,
Arrival.
I'm hoping that just knocks it out of the park. I can't wait to see it, but I hope it is a sleeper hit if it's great. And everything I've heard from the advances from people who saw it at TIFF and whatnot, I was like, it's a really cool science fiction film.
It's got a neat science fiction premise. It's got a cast that people have heard of. It's got a great director behind it. It's coming out early November, I think, is when its wide releases. So it has all the makings, all the trimmings of being a sleeper hit.
You know what? One that I was really under my radar. I barely even remember hearing about it till we talked about the trailer the other day, and that is The Edge of 17. That trailer just made me laugh my guts out. I couldn't believe how funny that was. Woody Harrelson in there as well. I think that could be one. I'm totally with Arrival is probably my number one choice. Hacksaw Ridge is another one, but yeah, Edge of 17. What about you, Perri?
Just to give a shout out to a horror movie coming out that might not be on your radar, go look out for the autopsy of
Ouija
Jane
2.
Doe.
Oh,
hey. Well then, not going to say anything about that. Autopsy of Jane Doe is coming out in December. IFC Midnight is releasing it, and that is one heck of a horror film. It's from the guy who directed Troll Hunter. I got to see it at Beyond Fest this weekend, and it really is something special. It stars Emile Hirsch and Brian Cox. Go check it out.
Schnepp?
Oh, is that?
Oh, you already said Arrival, and you said that too.
I would say Arrival. I'd also say Office Christmas Party could be like that. Just like
could
raunchy
be
holiday
really dumb
comedy.
or really funny.
You cannot tell from the trailer.
Yeah.
And the next week Rogue One comes out. Then you have Assassin's Creed and Passengers. But it's great counter programming for all these serious movies. Like we're going in outer space. We're gonna do this. We're doing that. And then you can just go have a drunk laugh with your friends. Office Christmas Party might be the ticket.
There's also Sing. Did anyone say Sing?
From
Illumination?
I don't think that's
going to
be. I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do
well. I feel like that
really
wasn't on my radar whatsoever. And then I think it premiered at TIFF or something. And much of the reviews and reception coming out of that festival was, whoa, this could put Illumination Entertainment on the map in a new way.
See, I mean, the trailer for Sing is so horrible. That's why I keep
I was
hearing
kinda-
stuff.
I was kind of charmed by it.
Yeah?
I was actually kind of charmed by it.
Are people going to be sick of seeing troll-like creatures in Trolls, then they don't want to go see animals sing and sing, but I think there's a market for both of them.
Yeah, Wendy, you got any kind of picks for what could be a sleeper hit this year?
I do. I think The Space Between Us is going to be a sleeper hit. That's with Britt Robertson and Asa Butterfield. So, because often we see people go into space, like The Martian, but we've never seen someone who's like born and like grew up in space coming back to Earth and learning like the Earth for the first time. And then also Miss Sloan.
I don't like these Martian kids coming down here.
You know
No,
what? That
no.
does look. You know what it reminded me of? That little indie. Like B film about the Nazis who've been hiding out on the moon for 50 years and now they
that's
come
right.
back. What was the name of
Oh my
that?
God, what was that
Iron
called?
Rising or Iron?
Oh, yeah.
Something
Oh my
like
God,
that.
yeah, something. Iron Sky.
Iron Sky.
Yeah, no, I
so
saw
it
that.
reminded me a
Hitler
little.
riding a dinosaur. Let's go.
Get them now in Feigen.
I need to
Incredible.
see this movie
You
so
gotta
bad.
see
Yeah,
it.
it's about
so
the
stupid.
Nazis went to the moon 50 years ago, and they've actually been hiding out on the moon, developing a massive military on there, getting ready to come back to
Yeah,
Earth and
for the
take
Fourth
over the
Reich.
world.
Wow.
It's insane.
And it's a documentary?
That's right. A documentary from the future. We win, but it's still.
Thank goodness.
All right, guys, that'll do it for us for this installment of Collider Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the people sitting at the table with me. First of all, over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Jon Schnepp. I'll be on Collider Nightmares with Perry Clark and Mark Riley later today. Collider Heroes tomorrow. We're going to recap all the New York Comic-Con madness and on Movie Talk here. And also watch me and Robert Meyer Burnett do some more damage as team heroes later.
Perri Nemiroff, where can people find you?
You guys can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at PNemroff. Of course, Collider Nightmares right here. Go watch it. And then also every Saturday on Best of the Week.
Mark Ellis is back.
At Mark Ellis Live, because occasionally I am live and I stand up and I tell jokes in front of people, like what I'll be doing this weekend at Denver Comedy Works downtown. Get tickets at my website, Mark Ellis Live.
Hey, Mark, can I just say I saw him do he headlined in New York, a sold-out, jam-packed crowd of sweaties, super nerds, schmoes fans. Everybody was like crying and stuff. And I was like, Ellis better be funny. You know what I mean? I was there with a bunch of other Collider people. We were like, and Inman and Ashley. So we were all like, well, you know, I've seen him do a couple of 2 or 3 minute stand-up sets. This guy is incredibly good. Definitely go see him live. If you get a chance, he is top dollar. We saw a full hour. Everybody was laughing. He paid me $20 to say this. It's worth every dollar. It's worth it. Definitely see him. I just want to say.
You and I did a Q&A afterwards.
We
where
did.
We might have had some fun with John. Might have had some fun with Christian. So it's
They were in the John and Kristen were in the tour bus, and if you didn't believe us, you're absolutely right. We're trying to making sure they're coming next year to New York Comic Con, but definitely see Ellis. I gotta say, the man has it.
All right, and I guess Perry and I actually went to the world famous Comedy Store in Hollywood to see Mark do a stand up the other week. Dead air.
So
not good at all. Not funny at all.
Someone's lying.
I'm glad to hear you picked it up though in New York.
Yeah, you know, it's
everybody has a
misfire,
rough
and,
day.
I'll do better. It didn't help you running naked on stage. It didn't enhance the show
Somebody
like we
had
thought
to
it
get
would.
the crowd going. That's all I'm gonna
There
say.
were fleshy bits seen, and I didn't like
Dangly
it.
bits.
Dangly bits.
Fleshy
Go
dangly
out and
bits.
see Mark Ellis live whenever you get the chance, especially if you're in Denver this week. And over there, of course, we have Ashley and Wendy. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Ashley Mova. Happy Tuesday, guys.
And Wendy?
You can find me on YouTube at the Movie Couple channel and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Wendy Lee Zaney.
And you guys simply follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just at John Campea. Make sure you subscribe to Comic Con HQ, where Jon Schnepp and I have our weekly show, Film HQ. Go and check that out. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.
Emoji.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.